Go. Great. So thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Amy Birch. I'm a traffic engineer and a consultant that works on behalf of NDOT to help them facilitate the traffic calming program that is very popular in Nashville. And on the call also working with me is Eleni Saltel, and so she'll be monitoring the chat box in case I miss any questions that come through there. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and speak out. We'll be able to hear you, and we'll answer those questions. But yes, this is our second meeting about traffic calming on Rosedale Avenue. We had a first meeting in, I believe it was February, about Rosedale. Rosedale was selected for traffic calming in December of 2021. And so through this process, we have meetings and work through preparing a plan and sharing that information with the neighborhood. So previously, when this street was first selected, our program didn't do the meeting card advertisements. And that's an improvement that we've incorporated just this summer in order to make sure that we're sharing the information about our project to everyone that's affected and all the property owners along the street. So hopefully you received those meeting cards. If you live on Rosedale, that's where those meeting cards would have gone. So let's back up just a little bit and give a bit of background information about what traffic calming is. We're looking at strictly residential streets, and these are physical solutions that we install in the road or beside the road, something like that, to encourage slower speeds on these residential streets. And we're looking at trying to get that slow speed or slower speed over a significant length of the street. We're not just looking at spot. And this all kind of falls under NDOT's Vision Zero action plan in our goals to achieve zero fatalities on our streets and zero incapacitating injuries on streets. So that's what this program falls under a bit. There we go. So this program, we look at street by street basis. So we are collecting data on streets that have been applied for traffic calming through the application, and then apply these, our tools in our toolbox to identify what's appropriate for that street's characteristics to achieve slower speeds. So like I said, it's street by street. So we're comparing streets based on the data that we collect, and it's not necessarily encompassing several streets in the neighborhood. Outside of the traffic calming program, there's resources. If you have other issues in your neighborhood, you can reach out to Hub Nashville. Hopefully you're familiar with Hub Nashville already, but if you're not, hub.Nashville.gov or dial 311. This is a great place to make the various departments know about maintenance issues or request new service of different types. But like if a sign is down or the crosswalk is worn out, something like that, that's a great place to do it. But it's a clearinghouse. It's not just NDOT. It's Metro Water Services and all of those departments. So the program starts with an application. So an application was submitted for Rosedale Avenue, and we have that open 2 times a year, typically in the winter and the summer. And from that, we do a prioritization. So collect data and compare these streets that have been applied for traffic calming, and then select. Right now, we've been selecting 25 streets for traffic calming twice a year. So it's 50 streets a year that we're working with those neighborhoods. And I'll go over the criteria for the prioritization in a minute, but once a street's selected, then we start engaging with the community and the people that live along that street. We do that through meeting number 1. Like I said, these mailers are new to our program. We've just implemented that recently. But we will send mailers to the property owners along the street. And then at that first meeting, we give an overview of what the our toolbox is, what the program is, and the process, and the sort of estimated schedule. Then we go back and we also, at that first meeting now, we're presenting a concept plan to get some initial feedback from the neighborhood. And then we go back and we make some refinements to that design. We do more field work to really cite what the tools are, the devices that we're recommending for the street, and maybe it's a complete revision of the plan based on feedback we get. Just depends. But then once we have a design prepared or concept, a good concept prepared, we reach back out to the neighborhood to set another meeting and send cards to the postcard meeting announcements for that second meeting. And we'll present the recommended plans and outline the next step. So that's where we are now on meeting number 2. And then the next step is getting the demonstrated support for the proposed plan for traffic calming on that specific street. So we have a ballot process now. Our old format was a petition, which required door-to-door kind of wet signatures on a petition, and it was real a lot of work for the neighborhood. But right now we're doing a online ballot. So again, those would be handled through postcards. So it'd be about the 3rd postcard you get in the mail about this project, and it's a finite window of time, a 6-week window, and then it's based on the 66% of favorable votes. So that's out of the votes. We want 66% of the votes to be in favor in order for the project to move forward. And then we move into the construction. Like I said, this is a pretty in-demand program. There's a lot of streets in Nashville that have requested traffic calming. And most recently, our round of applications, we had requests for traffic calming on 426 neighborhood streets. And in the last selection, which was in July, we selected 24 neighborhood projects. This project, again, was selected in December 21. So our prioritization process is data-driven. It's based on a 100-point maximum scale, and this pie chart to the right is showing the percent breakdown of the weight of these 4 different criteria that we're looking at. The largest piece is 50% of the score is based on the measured speed. So we measure the speed on all the streets that have requested traffic calming in order to identify what the 85th percentile speed is, and we compare that to the posted speed. So the 85th percentile speed on a street is the street that 85% of the traffic is driving that speed or below. And that's a typical measurement we use in traffic engineering. So we compare that to the posted speed limit. And then the 20% is based on crash history. We pull the crash data for a 5-year period for that street and look at the crash rate essentially for the street and make that comparison with the other requested streets for traffic calming. Then we have 2 other criteria: active transportation and neighborhood destination. So we're looking at nearby places where we would expect people to want to walk or bike to, like schools, parks, community centers. And that's the neighborhood destinations. And then the active transportation is, are there sidewalks on the street? If there's not sidewalks on the street, that gets more points. Is there a presence of bike lanes or bus stops or bus routes along the street or within a quarter mile of the street? So we apply these points to all the streets, and then the streets that score the top 25, those are the ones selected at that time for that selection period. So why was Rosedale selected? Just to give you some of the data that we collected. The 85th percentile speed was measured at 40 miles per hour on Rosedale. and the posted speed limit is 30. And then we did measure the volume at 5,200 vehicles per day. So that's the total traffic where we measured it in both directions for a whole day. And then there's, of course, as you know, if you live on Rosedale, there's some significant sidewalk gaps along the street, but there are some sidewalks. So on this street, I'm going to now talk about the recommended traffic calming measures that we've identified for Rosedale and have recommended, and that is speed tables. So these are rubberized devices that are installed, they're drilled into the pavement on the street, and they're designed for around 20 to 25 mile per hour speeds. They're accompanied by warning signage. I have another picture that will show that. And then we have a series of 4 tables. These devices are flat on top, and then they ramp on the approach and descent off the top, but they're long enough so that a car's wheelbase can fit on top without, all the way on top. So they're 14 feet long, and then they stretch the whole length of the width of the street, not the length, the width of the street. And as you see on these pictures, they'll have markings on them that are painted so that you can see them. And when we install these, we're measuring them away from driveways at least about 15 feet so that they're not a nuisance for someone that might be living right next to them. So this is a video of 2 cars going over the speed table. So they are effective in slowing speeds, but they're more comfortable than some of the other rubberized devices that we use on streets that maybe have lower volume and are more residential in nature. And this is a picture showing the sign that would go with each one to give warning so that people know what they're approaching as they get to them. So here's the plan, concept plan showing approximate locations of where these would be. There are things we have to avoid, like grades and driveways and things like that. So that kind of dictates where we can place these devices. But we think this plan would be effective in slowing cars and driver speed without being incredibly cumbersome. So to just working from the west, Bransford, we're talking about one just west of address 542 Rosedale Avenue. It's really just east of Rosedale Place. And then another one at near 530 Rosedale. Then another one near or just west of the Rosedale Baptist Church. And the 4th one is located around 402 Rosedale as you get close to Nolensville Road. So we put these in a series to encourage consistent speed along the length of the street. If we just put one, we might not get the same effect for the length of the street. So I might pause here and see if there's any questions about the plan.
I'm Mark Watson, if I may. The one that the speed calming unit west of 402 Rosedale, that would appear to be right at my driveway. Is that true?
It's not going to be right at your drive.
At 2200 Klein Avenue, there's a driveway that exits onto Rosedale.
Did you freeze or no?
And I realize these are just approximations. However, uh, let me just talk about that one in particular, if I could, and everybody, if you would, just tolerate me, because there's about 400 foot of this street that I live along, and the speeding that comes off of Nolensville Road, they are already at 40 miles an hour when they hit the service road. They come off of Nolensville Road, and everybody comes around that curve, goes wide open until they hit I forget the name of the street, the first street on the right. They're wide open until they hit that street. Meaning, if your average speed is 40 miles an hour along that section of road, it's probably 45. Okay, so let me lead to my point. My point is, I think people are going to turn off Nolensville Road, and if that speed bump is too far down that road, we're going to end up with guys who are going to just launch their cars at 40 miles an hour across this. Sign or no sign. As soon as they turn off that road, they've got less than 50 yards before they would hit that. Well, they've got, in this case, they've got a good 60, 70 yards before they hit that. Those folks are pretty wide open. When they come past that service road, they're all doing 40. Okay. And now shut up and you go ahead.
That's good. That's good feedback. Thank you. You know, we try not to put them too close to commercial areas or commercial driveways, which kind of is in that section between Service Road and Nolensville. But you know, we can look at that and see if there's some additional warning that we could put in between Nolensville and that location. But to answer your question about the driveways, that we're aiming to be at least 15 feet from a device to a driveway. So it's hard to show, you know, how these lay out on
I
an
know.
aerial like this.
I realize that this is just a depiction. It's
Right,
just,
right.
I want to make sure that a note is taken that
Mhm.
all along Rosedale, there are places that people will drive 50 or will drive 25 miles an hour through the Berry Hill section, which I refer to as where the sidewalks are. But in
Mhm.
the Nashville section, which is from Nolensville Road down to where the new condominiums are built, there are no sidewalks. Zero. You cannot get from Nolensville Road, and I know this has been discussed along with some other partners who do various other things, but from Nolensville Road down to the entry into the condominiums, that is where the speed is. And then from there on to Winford, there are again no sidewalks. We do have school kids I watch every single morning that walk down through there with cars running past them at 40, at least 40. And then I have a pretty good estimate of speed after you've lived here a while.
Yeah, I think what Mark is also speaking to is like the hill from Nolensville down it toward Winford is very steep. And so even if people are coming and like trying to do 30 miles an hour, they're coming down the hill, they're picking up speed. And it's not until you like clear the bottom of that hill. The same thing doesn't happen on the other side of Rosedale because the hill is so curvy that
That's
like
right.
even as you're going down, you're slowing down because you're trying not to like hit whatever the businesses are that are on that north side of Rosedale. And so I think the combination of no sidewalk, no crosswalks, like poor visibility, big hill, like I don't know that a speed hump or a speed table is going to solve that.
Right. In on the Bransford end, I'm not sure you'd need any kind of speed calming down there where you make the hard turn. At that point, it's a bit late.
Mm.
You would end up at the railroad tracks by the time you got to that speed bump.
Uh,
So and again, I realize that I'm an engineer, so I very realize that these are estimated where you think you want them, but at the very end of Bransford where you're showing what is a red one, I think. Is there one down at the
Oh,
end of
that,
Bransford?
no, there's not one down there.
Okay.
That is just a symbol of the stop sign. Yeah,
Yeah, but
all
uh,
that.
like I say, the traffic that's, I mean, this whole road, if, and maybe
Mhm.
wrong because I don't live down on the other end, but this problem is from Nolensville Road to Cassidy, or Nolensville Road to Winford.
Yeah, it's like Nolan to Glen Rose, right? As soon as you hit, as soon as you hit Glen Rose and like there's that shortcut, like everything is very, like, Mark is right, is fine.
Okay,
Uh,
keep going
you're
now.
talking about the west section.
That would be the east section.
Yes, you're talking about the real concern is over here, between Nolensville and Winford. That's what I
That,
heard
that
Jim
is
say.
correct. And well, and actually, I hear beyond Winford because there are no sidewalks until
Mm-hmm.
you get to Berry Hill, which is on the other side of the church.
Mm-hmm.
The sidewalk starts at Rosehaven. We live right across from that intersection, and like Rosehaven all the way down to sidewalk. And the only thing on the other side is where the condos are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
it's on the north side on that side. Right. Um, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm taking note, if there's a way we can scoot the far east one further east to get closer to Nolensville to go ahead and set the tone for the street that people are turning onto. We will do that. But
Okay.
we have some limitations with grade, with driveways and all that. So we'll take another look at that. And then on the west side, I know there's big development going on at that
Ms.
south
Grissom's.
Miss Grissom's.
Yep.
It's under construction. And then on the north side of Rosedale, there's several houses. Some of them are businesses in that section too, and driveways to deal with. So we were trying to capture the zone that is primarily residential with this.
I understand.
Mhm. All right. Are there any other questions, Eleni? Have I missed anything in the chat box?
So there is a resident, Joy, and she is typing the chat just because her microphone isn't working. She is a resident that is in a mechanical wheelchair, and most of the comments she agrees with what Mark has been saying, and also she just wants to express that there isn't there's a lot of sidewalk missing, and that is hard for her in her wheelchair as well as for strollers. And there's also a lack of crossings to safely cross the road on Nolensville as well as other areas. She did mention that there was a sidewalk audit in 2017 and in 2020, and that she expressed some recommendations for that with NDOT. And then she also still expressed the same thing with the students and going to cut through that for the school, and that is pretty high traffic volume there too.
That's correct.
Okay. These are good. That's good information and helpful. And I think even in our first meeting, we talked some about, the desire for sidewalks and while we would love to have sidewalks on all streets, and this is separate, Joy, from whatever discussions you're having from NDOT. This is just already with NDOT about sidewalks on Rosedale, but just for this program's purpose, sidewalks are just not in our purview. We're not able to build sidewalks or add sidewalks, and that's why it's part of the criteria of streets selection into the program, because we understand that where there's lack of sidewalks, that's a real hurdle for people who need to walk on their residential street. And so if we can slow vehicles down, slow drivers down, and bring more awareness to pedestrians through physical measures to change driver behavior, then that's what we're trying to do with this program.
If I may, Mark Watson again, within the criteria, the lack of sidewalks, what percentage of safety danger, let's say it, I don't know what your number is. I'm sure you have to have a 1 through 10 kind of thing, but without sidewalks, that would seem to move that at the top of the food chain. Am I wrong there?
Well, it's I'm going to scroll back to our prioritization. It's not necessarily something that jumps it to the top. It's part of our 100-point scale. So, and it falls within the active transportation category, which gets 15% of the score. So this is really meant to, we have streets of all different types of characteristics, right?
Sure.
So we're trying to identify a method to figure out which streets should receive traffic calming, and we do look at whether or not there are sidewalks, and that's part of the calculation.
Okay. And I apologize if I'm asking you guys to kind of repeat something you've said before. It's just the more I sit here, especially with rain in the past week, the more I see things that we've got an inevitable problem that's going to come up, and it's from the speed of people coming off of Nolensville Road, and by the time they hit Winford.
Right, and you've got probably some cut through traffic, right? Some folks that are using that and instead of Craighead or some other route to take. They may not live on Rosedale or on one of these side streets off of Rosedale, but they're gonna learn about these devices that they're placed.
That's right. And I'm all for this. I'm just this in the particular case of where we physically are. This road has gone from a feeder, from a residential road to a feeder road.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of 4 crossings between 4th Avenue and 8th Avenue, or between 4th Avenue and the 8th Avenue, between Melrose, Rosedale, and the new road they cut around the fairgrounds. That's the only way people can jump from 4th to 8th. And where this used to be a residential neighborhood, just people feeding out onto Rosedale, hitting Nolensville Road, headed toward Bransford. This is now the cut through. This is your shortcut. And from 3 p.m., maybe 3:15 till 6:45, I have cars backed up from Nolensville Road all the way to Winford. Else I could sell cotton candy and tea out there while people sit and wait to get out. And again, that's part of that is there's no red light. Don't want to bring up a bunch of other stuff, but when people come off of Nolensville Road, they're hustling. So just please make as many profuse notes as you can, because that's a very scary place, especially when I look down here at 6:37 in the morning while it's still dark, and I see a kid with orange stripes reflecting.
So on the other side of Nolensville on Glenrose, y'all just did a traffic calming over there, correct?
Installed? I don't think it's been installed. I think it's gone to petitioner ballot.
One of the things that's over there, they have the signs that do your speed is, and it measures speed. I'm wondering if something like that would be more helpful on Mark's side of because it doesn't depend on the grade, it doesn't depend on any of that. And I think part of it is people just don't realize how fast they're going when they're turning off of Nolensville onto Rosedale. It's a totally separate issue going from Rosedale onto Nolensville. But what's the logic behind doing something like a speed table instead of doing something like one of those signs?
So
I'm a both kind of guy.
Yeah, that might make sense. To put one in advance of the table so that,
Yeah.
it flashes
I,
already.
I think that's an excellent idea. Otherwise, we're going to end up with, right now with the construction traffic. We're
Mhm.
now going to have, 5-ton, 10-ton trucks for the next 6 months. And we did during the stadium build. Those trucks are going to rumble right through Rosedale. They're
Yeah.
not going
So,
around Rosedale.
to answer your question, Jen, we, you know, we do find that the physical measures, the vertical measures in the road are more effective for longer periods of time.
That's
You know, the signs, there's no real repercussions for the signs. It's a great reminder, and we do think that they work, and sometimes we use them in places that or on streets where we can't use the physical measures, or that a neighborhood doesn't support it. I'll get to that in a minute, but if our ballot process finds that there's just not support for these vertical measures, then that might be a tool we would use as a backup kind of plan, so that we're still doing some traffic calming measures. But I'd have to look at the street section, Mark, but it might make sense to put a flashing, a radar feedback sign. That's what we call them.
right.
Um,
And let me just tell you, I can physically tell where that sign belongs. That sign belongs right there at, let's see, we're at 4,000. That would be just before the first house at the back end of Shacklett's property, which is the little, I think it's a little restaurant up there, restaurant bar, whatever it is. Uh, at the back of their lot, no one physically will see that sign unless you're on that road. There will be nobody looking out a window. Nobody will see anything except people on that road.
Yeah, I was thinking like right behind Restaurante El Paraíso, which is like across from the service road feeder onto,
Yes,
yep, right there.
yes,
I think that's the restaurant you were talking about, um the Hispanic
mhm.
place.
that's an excellent place.
Excellent. Okay.
And then just call Earl and family up and tell them put in a sidewalk around that restaurant.
Yes. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
Shackleton's got plenty of roads named after them. They can do that for us.
all right. So did I answer your
And
question, Jen?
yeah, kind of. And Amy, to Joy's question around the sidewalks up on that end, like, is that a question, like, should we funnel that to Colby? Is that something that we should like put in something on Hub Nashville? Because I feel like, to Joy's point, like I've heard a lot about like, oh, there's going to be this sidewalk project. Oh, this sidewalk is getting extended, and like several years down the road, and none of that's happened. And I know there's a sidewalk project for Craighead that's going to start here in another couple of weeks, which is great, but like we also, given all of the stadium traffic, and I'm sure Mark has just joy, oodles of fun at the end of every soccer game with all the people
Yeah,
trying to go by there as well, right? Like we try to walk our dog, and you cannot, if the game is getting out, you cannot walk a dog on that side of Rosedale because there's no sidewalk and you will get hit.
right. It's a great place for a lemonade stand.
So the question you're asking about, that Joy is asking, is about the crosswalks. Is that what you were saying?
I think crosswalks and sidewalks, like
And
how
sidewalks.
do
Yeah.
we, like,
Yeah.
they've been
That.
saying they're going to do this thing. Who do we talk
Mhm.
to say, like, you have been saying you were going to do this thing? Because obviously it's somebody at NDOT. It's not you. Like, who is it?
Yeah. So I can give you contact information for Anna Dearman. She is the walk and bike manager, program manager for NDOT, and so she kind of manages where all the sidewalk priorities are. There is a walk and bike Nashville plan that was released, I think, earlier this year. I don't think that Rosedale is in the 3-year work plan.
Yeah,
But she would be a great resource, and I'll I'll look up her contacts, but it's Anna.Dearman, DEARMAN at Nashville.gov. ANNA.DEARMAN at Nashville.gov.
Thank you.
All right.
And,
So,
and, and I apologize maybe for opening this can of worms where we're all just kind of bouncing around a little bit, but this is a comprehensive problem that will only get much worse as we build more units at the other end of Bransford and this soccer stadium. And this could be a prime place for a nice little, all right, at least it's safe here. You know, from Nolensville Road to the stadium, from Nolensville Road to the fairgrounds. I mean, you know, I still go under the bridge by taking the back roads just because I don't want to deal with Ms. Grissom's salad issues with the fact that we're never going to deal with the railroad tracks at Bransford and Craighead. I mean, I've come to the grips. We're just not going to deal with that. But at the same time,
it's a challenge.
Now that we only have so many days of sunlight, and I watch these kids wearing reflective suits just trying to get back and forth to school and back and forth to the bus. Not good.
Yeah. So,
we're way too close to town to have to deal with this.
I understand what
out in Antioch.
You're saying, and the desires. I think with this program, we're trying to at least slow.
No, I love it. Hey,
that's what we can do here, and then maybe we can, you all can coordinate with your council member and NDOT on sidewalk desires or needs, and that works together. But they take a long time. This is something that is, I'll say, relatively quick, but it's taking some time too.
And I guarantee you there's nobody sitting on this other end of this that doesn't appreciate anything that gets done.
Great. Well, then with that, let's maybe jump in and talk about the next steps.
Okay.
We're ready for that. So, like I said earlier, we have a new balloting process, which we think is really great as compared to when we met the first time. We talked about our petition process that required neighborhood residents to take paper petitions and go door to door and get signatures until they reach 70% of all the homeowners on the street to sign in favor. So we've made some changes so that the responsibility is back on NDOT to advertise meetings, to get the information out about the ballot and information out about the plan itself, instead of relying on the residents to do that footwork and hard work. So now we've instituted a online balloting process. So following this meeting, we can move into the balloting process. If we're, at least those here on the call are happy with the plan and ready to move forward with it, we would send our ballot cards out. And what we require in order for the project to move forward now is 66% of the people who vote, the eligible voters, 66% of those that vote respond in favor of the project. So it's not now dependent on the number of properties on the street and getting 66% of that. It's those that choose to vote. We were running into some issues where several streets, and like I said previously, we have streets with all different types of characteristics, but some streets may have a higher rental share. And so it was really hard for residents that were championing the project and trying to get the petition to reach those folks because the landlord might be in Nebraska. So we've kind of retooled this whole process of identifying that or confirming that there's support for the project. But the ballots go to property owners along the length of the street that's affected by the project. And so we send those ballot cards out. They have a QR code, a link which links to the online ballot. And there's also access to the plans so that people can view the plans before they vote. They can vote for or against. That's a different, that's also a change from the petition that we presented previously to you. Was really you only just signed if you were in favor of the project, and we didn't have any way of knowing if it was just hard to collect the signatures or if there wasn't support for the project. So now the ballot cards go to everyone that's eligible to vote, and they can vote for or against. It's also condensed the length of time that we're waiting on identifying whether there's support for the project. It's a 6-week window, so the card will have the ballot closing date on it. So when you get that card in the mail, go ahead and vote right away so you don't forget or lose the card. But then we'll have a closing date, and we'll get back to the folks that we're coordinating with on this project with the results of the ballot. Each ballot card has a unique ID that we use to make sure we don't have duplicate votes, and we can kind of check to make sure the votes that are received are eligible votes from property owners that received the ballot cards. And then also the cards will have a phone number to NDOT so that if there's anyone that receives the postcard and wants to vote and doesn't have access to internet or can't vote via internet or online, they can call NDOT and cast their vote that way.
Simple question.
Mhm.
So over across the street or in the condominiums, how do they vote? I mean, there's one stretch of property, common property. Who votes? How do you actually contact every condo within
Well,
that
just
complex?
through a mailer, just through a postcard mailer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're not, door to door reaching out specifically. They're
understand.
getting the postcards, and they'll go to those property owners. The common property there that won't get a vote. It's just the homeowners, property owners.
Okay. But the people in the condominium are considered to live on Rosedale, correct?
Yes, because that's their
Okay.
address. Yep.
All right.
Yes. Yes. Every street we have some unique characteristics about it. Like the commercial properties are removed from the voting process. It's just homeowners, property owners, and like on this, the yellow is showing pretty much the voting,
Okay.
the properties eligible to vote. But we go through, like, I think one of these properties that's been cut into 4 homes hadn't been built yet. So they're not getting 4 votes on that. If there's not a home on it, then,
Yeah,
then
I'm not worried about that. I just make sure that in some way the condominium HOA couldn't say, hey, we think that's ugly. It makes it hard to sell a condo when the people that live there said, hey, I really need this to get out of my parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes to their address, each one. That's our zone. So I'll talk about next steps. So typically it takes us a couple of weeks after the meeting to move forward with getting our postcards in the mail to the property owners. And then there's the 6-week window for the voting period, and the postcards to the online ballot will say when the ballot closes for that neighborhood. And then if it's successful, if we receive 66% of the votes in favor of the total votes are in favor of the project, then we move forward with the material ordering. So we don't keep all this rubber on hand at NDOT. We just don't have a place to store it, so we have to order it for specific projects. So we'll, you know, calculate what rubber we need to order for these 4 speed tables and do that at that point. And then so that's about 12 to 16 weeks. We've, you know, still got long lead times on getting this material in. And then we work with the contractor and get it installed after we receive the materials in.
Oh,
They do not have to like bid out each one of the, NDOT does not bid out each one of these traffic calming installs. They use their on-call contractor. It's more about, you know, getting the work order in place and getting on their schedule to get that done. Speaking about going back to the mailer, and the postcard, you know, we're coming up on a holiday. So it may be that we want to wait until January, or we could go ahead and send them out right away. We'll coordinate with NDOT on that, and we'll, Jen, I think you're our contact, one of our contacts for this neighborhood. No, okay. I thought I saw your name on an email, but we will coordinate with our contacts about when those go out, so you know to look for them.
okay. If I could interrupt.
Yes.
Given the fact that you just gave me the lead time for the circle sign of slow down, is the lead time the same on that?
The radar feedback sign.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you your sound went out for me, at least for a second, but you're asking about the radar feedback sign. No, I think those don't take quite as long. But you know, it could be somewhere in that range. Yeah. It could be faster. We wouldn't necessarily have to wait on, if those materials came in earlier, we would not have to wait on the speed table material to come in to go ahead and install that. We could move that along, because again, we don't want to store it too long because we've got material coming in all the time. So when it arrives, we could get that moving.
I get it.
So any other questions?
Hey, gang, now's the chance.
Let me see the chat.
Could you show that location, Amy, of where the proposed speed cushions will be?
Yes, I can. Where'd they go? Here we go. This one, Eleni?
Yep, I think so.
So this is related to a question that
Joy just was
in the
asking
chat.
if we could show that slide again.
Here it is. These are spaced about 1,000 feet apart, I believe. It's a longer stretch between number 2 and 3.
And that would make sense because that is an area they've already slowed down for.
I see from Joy, it says maybe a recommendation to send them out in January so they don't get lost. You know, it's not preferable, but you may come across your neighbors after the ballot has started and you're asking them, have they voted, or encourage them to vote, and they say, I didn't receive a postcard or I lost it. I don't know where it is, whatever. You can reach out to the, it's NDOT traffic calming at Nashville.gov, and they can reach out and be able to vote that way. There'll just be a little bit of, coordination with someone about trying to identify what their unique ID code should be for that. So, if you come across people during the voting period and they want to vote, but they don't know where their postcard is, you can either reach out to us or have them reach out to us, and we can help facilitate that.
All right.
Joy also asked if these could be sent out this week.
If they could be sent this week, they might be sent next week. Probably not tomorrow. We have to work with the mailing vendor to get those out. So that would put them in mailboxes. I guess that would be like the 12th or so. Pulling up my calendar here. Oh no, that would be like sending them on the 12th, so they might get in mailboxes on the 14th or 15th. That's possible, but I'm not going to guarantee it because I need to run it by NDOT, because the last one we did, the neighborhood requested us to hold until January, but
And why would they do that?
just wanting to make sure it didn't get lost in the shuffle, I think.
Really?
And it's a concern for us too. We don't want the mail to get lost or ignored, or people being out of town. So
Okay.
but I think we can probably go ahead and send them out next week, because they'll get in the mail before school's out. If there's so if this group is supportive of that, I think we could move in that direction.
I'm voting for yesterday.
Okay. Any other questions?
Doing good. Keep it up.
All right. So one thing that we'll do, we'll circle back on the radar feedback sign and confirm if we can, we'll look and see if that's possible. And
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised Metro hadn't brought an emergency one out here and just set it up and thrown a solar collector or solar power on it. If I had anybody from the police department sit in my driveway or just sit in my yard for an hour or watch people come on Nolensville Road, I can pay for a lot of things with the tickets we can write.
So the radar feedback signs that we install permanently, they're on a post.
I realize I'm gonna write it.
They are, but they're also solar powered, so that gives us some flexibility to install them in a lot of places.
Right, and that's and I may seem to be overemphasizing it, but yeah, that's just me.
I think your feedback is very helpful.
Slow people down off of Nolensville Road, the less likely we are somebody's going to get hurt.
Don't put, Joyce says, don't put them in the yard of the burned out tire shop. There's a lot going on there.
Of course not. Across the street, we need to come in the other way. So
yeah,
right
facing people that are turning on to Rosedale. Mm-hmm.
When you come off of Nolensville Road, whether you're going north or south on Nolensville Road, and you go west on Rosedale, at the back of the Shacklet property where the restaurant is a big parking lot back there. And it's big end of that parking lot is the end of that lot. The very next house is a little house that sits off to be on the north side. That little house on the north side would not even know that sign was there if you put it in the easement right there where a sidewalk is supposed to be. But right there, that is the perfect place for that. You can turn off the road, the light will flash. If you come off that hill at that speed, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see if we can do that.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll let everyone get back to their evening, and we appreciate you participating and giving us feedback. And again, let your, once you receive your postcards about the voting, let your neighbors know they need to look for theirs and do it, because we want to make sure we're reaching folks and they're aware of the project.
Great.
And you'll see the plans. There'll be a link from the online ballot to view the plans, and you'll be able to see if the radar feedback sign is there. Then we'll add that. Then we can do that. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. And have a good evening.
Thank you for your time, and I apologize for taking up so much speaking time. It's just the more I sit here, the more I worry.
Well, we're hoping that we can help.
Yeah, I love it.
With this.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.